Last year I've been to Germany twice actually. Due to the pandemic, I couldn't visit my daughter for more than 2 years. It was really hard for both of us, and I enjoyed the time with her in Hamburg. I also enjoyed time at the bakeries, from which I haven't completely recovered yet. However, I want to bake something from German bakeries today. It's called Vanilleschnecken or vanilla swirls. To be completely honest, I've never baked these before. I just researched and I looked at several videos from several channels, and I decided to just, mix it a little bit and take a little bit from everyone. There is one recipe that stood out to me, and because it is a little bit weird, and I thought, let's be adventurous. Let's just try how that turns out. So let me show you the ingredients, and then you will understand why I felt like it's a little bit weird. So I first need flour, sugar, milk, butter, vanilla sugar, and vanilla sugar can be homemade and the recipe is here. If you don't want to do that, you can also just use a little bit of vanilla extract. Then quite a bit of yeast. These are 2 packages or 14 grams of yeast and a package of baking powder, which is 16 grams. So that is a little bit weird using that much yeast and that much of baking powder together. And I'm not the only one who was questioning that, and someone in the comment wrote something about it, but there was no answer to that. So I'm not really sure why she's doing this in her recipe, but I thought, well, since everyone really praises this recipe, it seems to be turning out quite well. So let's just do it. I think though that if you do not use the baking powder, you will still be fine. This is actually a package that I brought from Germany, and it contains some saffron, which will make the dough a little more yellow, and that's just really good for the pictures that I'm going to make later. Okay, then a pinch of salt, some yogurt and an egg. And for the filling, I have made some vanilla pudding. I need to let it cool completely, and a little bit of confectioner's sugar. So I'll start with the milk, and the milk is slightly above room temperature. Then I'm adding the yeast. And I'm also adding a little bit of the sugar already. I wish I could use some fresh yeast. I brought some from Germany actually. It's in the freezer. It's not really recommended to freeze it, but that's the only way I can do it. I checked and I found out that I can actually buy fresh yeast or cake yeast here in America in large amounts for $60. I'm not going that way. Okay, I let this stand for a couple of minutes. And then I will be adding the remaining ingredients. Meanwhile, I can already mix the baking powder with the flour. As I said before, you can leave the baking powder out of this. It looks nice, but I'll give it a try. I want to know how that turns out. Usually just the yeast should be enough. So let's see. There's another recipe where I'm using some baking powder together with yeast. That's the pretzel recipe, and there it just gives it an extra boost, so they become really fluffy, but that shouldn't be necessary here. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let's see. Yep, I can already smell the yeast in this bowl. So I'm now adding the entire flour. I'm also adding the sugar, the yogurt, a pinch of salt, then also the vanilla sugar. And if you don't have that, as I said, just use some vanilla extract. Oh, and I forgot to mention, of course, the recipe quantities and more details are on the blog here. There's the post, and you can switch between the metric and the US customary measurements. So here comes the egg. What I'm not adding yet is the butter. I will add the butter a little later when the dough has almost come together. Okay, let's give it a knead. I didn't knead it very long, just a few minutes, and you see the dough has come together somewhat. I'll just give it a short knead by hand, and then, like always with a dough that has yeast, it has to proof for about 45 minutes. So you can see this has definitely doubled in size, and I want to roll it out into a rectangular shape now. Next, I will put the pudding onto the dough. If you wonder about the dark spots here, that's from my vanilla sugar. So I'm putting this pudding all over the place, but I leave a good amount of gap towards the rims. And if you want, you can make the pudding with a little less milk, so it has a more dense consistency. Usually you make it with like 500 milliliters of milk or 2 cups, and you could just use 400 milliliters or 1 3/4 of a cup. All right, so now I'm going to roll this from the wide side, and I'm going to roll it very loose, so not very dense. I'm just like putting it like that, folding it over. Okay, and then I wrap this around just like that. Okay, looking good. So now I saw in some videos people would use some twine to cut these, which is probably the best way to keep the shape for it. I don't have that right now, so I'm just going to cut with a knife, and I will make these about 1 inch wide, which is like 3 to 4 centimeters. And these go onto the baking sheet now. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this one here though. Let's first start with the real swirls. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you can add some raisins to this. Some of you already know my family isn't into raisins, but if you use some rum-soaked or water-soaked raisins, you can add a little more taste to it. I will just make a few of them with some raisins. I could have put them into the pudding already to use them when I'm rolling, but I actually forgot. So let's just make a little bit of this. Okay, now let this rest for another 15 minutes. And they will increase in size a little bit during that time. And while they are resting, I will preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. Okay, now it goes into the oven. So now look at this. They have really increased in size quite a bit. What I didn't do, but some other bakers did, they brushed some egg wash onto the swirls before they baked them. I didn't do that. I think they turned out very nice anyway. So I'm now adding some confectioner's sugar. And that's basically it. So I am curious to taste one of these. Which one should I take? I think I'll have the small one here. Oh, it's still too hot. I have to wait a little bit. So now I think it should be cool enough to have a bite. Oh, this looks so good. Look at it. Delicious. It's very soft. You can see this here. And the outer side is a little more dense. It has a little bit of a crust, but that's okay. Yes, this recipe is a win. I hope you like this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell button, and I hope you check out some more of my videos. Thank you for watching.